Godfather. Pulled up to the scene in a 65 Bentley, dripped in Brioni, China doll with me, looking like a supermodel. Oh, what a feeling. 25 years old, 25 million. Today's the audition for the Godfather part. My life's already a movie, so when do I start? I walk up in Patsy's, East 119th Street. Fat Tony Salerno gets a kiss on the cheek. I know my way around, not my first time here. Been doing overnight Ziganet loans for 10 years. I say hello to Danny Pagano and Tough Tony. Nicky Domino gives me a nod, they all know me. They ask why I'm there so early, I say the part. They say what part? I say the movie, why not? I don't look like Carlo, they all begin laughing. 3 p.m. ready for the lights.
My name is Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Carlo, the infamous son-in-law from The Godfather. I'm now known as the Hollywood Godfather, and this is my story.
Walking with a limp like will I ever run? Once again, or is this it? Am I forever done? Living in the hospital was never fun. Some people were cool, but not everyone.
Welcome, everybody. It's time for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. We have an exciting cast tonight, believe me. And let's get right to it. My padre, co-writer, and friend, Pat Torelli, please.
Good evening, everybody. Happy to be here. Hey, I'm happy to be anywhere, but particularly here. Tonight, we have a couple of special things. We have a very interesting guest, and we'll introduce him shortly. But we have a guest co-host. Her name is Jeannie Raymond, and those of you may recognize the name because she's a character in our book, The Sixth Family. And those of you who don't recognize the name, go out and buy the book. There you go. Jeannie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, thank you for letting me join today. I'm so excited about it. I born and raised in Utah, always been here. My favorite place on earth to go is just jump in the car and head to Las Vegas. So I've always been intrigued by all this stuff. And I listen to Gianni talk all the time about how it's changed so much. They've got kids and strollers and people in flip-flops, and what I'd give to go back in time where everyone was dressed up beautiful and it was such a big deal. But I was trying to remember how I found your podcast, but I don't know where I ran across it, but I got hooked, and it's something I listen to all the time, and I have peppered these guys with questions every episode. Gianni would say something, and I would full disclosure, I usually jump up first thing in the morning, grab my coffee, jump in the shower, and listen to the podcast. I do have to say, you guys have made it a little interesting now that there's video. It's a little uncomfortable. I can't take that video in the shower, but it makes me very nervous. I'm like,
I was going to say, tell me what time to take a shower.
Yeah,
I'll close my eyes.
I'll tell you how you found the podcast. When I reached out to you on Facebook,
well,
when we started talking, and that's how it started.
That's
okay.
And I had always written questions and written in. So I always have questions that I'm wanting to ask through all of your podcasts. So I'm really excited to be able to do it live while it's still fresh on my mind. So
before we get to the guest, were you ever at State Street? My club in Vegas?
No, I wish.
Well, you're too young, probably. And you weren't at Tiffany's either. Elvis and I opened that.
No, but I love Elvis. I'm a big fan, and I love your stories of everything you tell. What I really love, Gianni, is your pictures that you bring out all the time. And not only can you tell us great stories, but you've got the pictures to back it up. So I'm always thrilled when I see those come up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, let's get to our guest before he goes home.
I almost forgot we had a guest. All right. Tonight we have Robert Luisi, known as Bobby. Bobby wrote a book, which I am holding up, called From Capo to Christian. It's the story of his life going through various stages of being in organized crime. And it's a hell of a story. I just finished reading it and I was captivated by the book. So without any further delay, I'm introducing to you Bobby Luisi. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing good, and thank you for having me here tonight.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure. I just finished the book. You and I spoke this morning.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of guests on the podcast that have been involved in organized crime, but your story is unique. So what I want to ask you, how we're going to start off is, I was particularly interested in, you not being basically born into this life like a lot of people are. You were a legitimate person, you were a legitimate businessman, et cetera, et cetera. So can you start us off there and how you transitioned to the mob?
Well, I was 11, 12 years old. I used to work for Jerry and Julo. He had Rome vending. I used to go out on Saturdays and do the dime machines. Remember them, Gianni?
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah,
I forgot all about him. Well, he was working with Costello because Costello had all the machines. He controlled them all.
I'm sure. So that was my job every Saturday to go do that. My father was with these people for years, and I started hanging around when I was about 16. I started hanging around with them, but I was also doing carpentry work, which I enjoyed. Now I was, I grew up with the old timers, Pat, and I seen the way it used to be, the right way that it used to be. So they kind of grew me a little, if you know what I mean. And, but I enjoy carpentry. I got 2 builder's license. I was speccing houses, remodeling buildings, and I loved it. That's what I wanted to do. Even when I'm at this vineyard, I was down there for 6 years building houses.
How did you wind up with the mob?
Well, it was easy for me because my last name was Luisi. Obviously, my father's reputation and my family. So when I came back, about 1990, 1989, the market crashed down the Cape. I lost my spec houses. I lost my few places in Boston, and I ended up broke. From having 20 men working for me, I couldn't get a job myself. So I came back, and that's the only thing I knew what to do to make some fast money was get on the street.
Okay, so you're talking about the 90s. Wow.
Yeah, 1990.
I left that life in the 70s.
Yeah, I know.
So
tell
us, you're involved. What are you doing? You're a young man. What have you doing, and how did your career, quote unquote, escalate? And there was a lot of problems with the Patriarchas during those years. But
we had a war up there. I think everybody knows that.
Oh my God!
In the late 80s, and there were different factions up there. Everybody was starting to fight, and I ended up joining the Salami faction, myself and my family, my father. And the war started again really heavy, I think about 93.
Well, what was the purpose of this war? Just
territories to control.
Yeah, well,
why?
All right, the family, the way it was structured, okay, all those guys went away. When Frankie Salami came in and took over the family, no one liked it. So the old faction were coming after us, the new faction. So that's how this war started. And it ended like that. But praise God, I went through it, and I was standing at the end of it. And I reached out to New York. Gianni, I don't know if you knew Giggsy from the Lower East Side, Angelo Emilio.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, you knew them, right? I was friends with Angelo when Giggsy came up, and he went to talk to Pete Gotti for me. But Pete said that he couldn't take me in because, the commission rules were still in there.
Oh, no. See, that's the interesting time. You got involved in it the worst time ever.
Oh, I know. It was rough. Rough.
Because, the Gottis were having problems with the old factions, too.
Yeah. No, I know. It was going all around. We were warring. Philly was warring. I think the Colombos were warring at that time.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of things going on.
What about the drugs, Bobby?
Well, the drugs, I started right away when I got back, 1990. I hooked up with a friend from the neighborhood, started selling little things. But, I'm a businessman. So I tried to figure out, how am I going to make this money and make it fast? So I started getting kilos from the Colombians, started putting them together, and I'm flipping kilos now.
What was
the 2 years?
Everybody hears for the really the uninitiated. Gets the word that the mob didn't want anything to do with drugs, and it was a death sentence, and Can you address that?
It's all bullshit. I can address that too.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
of course.
nonsense.
That's
Everybody's an undercover agent, believe me.
get the money. Don't tell me you're getting it. How you getting it?
That's it. You got all your associates doing it.
That's the law.
Yeah. But listen, their hands in every pocket, drugs or not, it doesn't matter. I was directly involved with it. I was flipping 5 to 10 kilos a week, which was good up there.
Hello.
It's good anywhere.
Yeah.
It's
Probably the
heavyweight.
first 2 years when I started, I say come back in 90, by 93, I probably made my first million. And then it just started coming in after that. And from there, I was building my crew and my family.
Okay, at the time,
It's all about money at that time and control.
Oh, it was. Well, yeah, it was the control.
It's the envelope on Sunday morning. What are you bringing in?
Exactly. Well, that's what it's all about, Johnny, right or wrong?
Oh, I know. I've seen
were
it.
you, Bobby, were you an associate or did you get made about this time?
No, what happened when this was all going on, I was proposing the Patriarca family at one time. But I had a falling out with one of the captains, excuse me, one of the captains. And I know I wasn't going to get straightened out. Gianni will tell you, when they put a name in the hat, they pass it around all New York. Everybody used to see it. If one guy says something bad about you, you're probably not going to get your button.
And
So
they did you a
Boston's a
favor,
smaller
basically.
John? Am I right?
Bobby did you a favor by
Yeah.
passing by,
So then I ended up, a friend of mine did some time with Ralph Natali. And he ended up coming out being with Joey in Philly. So I went down there, I met those guys. They took me in, proposed me. Not even a year later, they got made. And then I started making my crew in Boston.
Well, Bobby, yourself, you got, and I'm on the outside listening to you, but I know the life too well.
Right.
They took you in because of what you were earning. You know that.
Well, yeah, that was part of it. That obviously that was part of it. We all know that. And that's what anything. I mean, come on. In New York, they were making cheese guys out there.
But the only reason I'm bringing it out because a lot of people in our audience are not, like Jeannie in this life.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all about envelopes.
It is. Well, you got to remember, Philly was going through their problems. We were going through our problems in Boston. Me and Joey met at the right time.
Did you talk about Joey
Molino? Joey Molino. I'm sorry, but Joey Molino. We met at the right time. Yeah, we hit it off. My guys were going down there. They were coming up, and he decided to make me.
Okay, but if you want to back up a little, things started to heat up with this with the three factions trying to kill each other constantly.
Oh yeah.
You lost. There's a very heart-rendering part of the book, the incident with your father and your brother.
Yeah.
So, but your brother was in an opposite faction.
My brother,
your father, pardon me.
No, my father was a Patriarca.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't on your side within the
infight. No. Listen, I did my own thing.
Yeah.
My father did his thing. He was in the North End. He grew up there. I was born in the North End. That was the Italian section. Gianni knows that was mob headquarters for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, excuse me. Did you have a family, wife and children at this time when you were doing all this?
Yeah, I had a wife and 3 kids, yeah, at the time.
Oh, you mean a real family, Jeannie?
Yeah, a real family. Yeah.
That's
the second family, Jeannie. Yeah. So
I'm curious because that's a lot of moving parts.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So where was I? I missed my.
Okay, the arguments with your father and what happened that fateful day with your father and your brother.
My father was a gangster his whole life. He wanted everybody to line up with him. I wanted to do my own things. I was rebellious. I didn't want to listen. I'm not going to blame my father for this whole thing, but we were just butting heads. I was making all that money. I was even supplying his side with the drugs and everything, but we just couldn't come to an agreement with anything. So he did his thing. I did my thing.
Go ahead. I would say the day of the shooting.
The night before, my friend Vinny and another kid, they beat up someone that was in my father's crew. I'll give it just a rough story. My father got pissed off. I got a phone call. He told me, you're on my side. I said, I'll never be on your side. Not meaning anything bad. It's my father. I'm arguing with him. You know what I mean?
His business.
So we went talking. So I called my friends up. I said, don't go in the North End. You know, let's get this beef over with. My cousin Ricky called me. We're going to straighten it out, you know. And they went to the 99 restaurant to stay out of the North End. Vinny and Damien, Clemente, you read it's in the book. Who walks in? My father, my brother Roman, my cousins, an Uncle Sonny, and they panicked. They called me on the phone. Vinny calls me on the phone. He says, Bob, what are we going to do? I said, pay the bill. Did they see you, Vinny? He said, no. I said, pay the bill, go out the side door. There's 200 people in there. No one's going to do nothing. Just go out the side door, I told him. But at that time, Damien was calling his father, Cleo. And Cleo's a little out of his mind. And that's what got the ball rolling. I thought the kids left. Then I got a phone call that everybody got shot. So what happened, my cousins, I'm going to say my brother Roman was a shooter. They knew that. Big, tough kid. You know, and I think when they saw him, my father, everybody walk in, they panicked. You know, and the kid called his father.
And they shot your father and your brother.
My father, my brother, my cousin Ricky survived. Killed my cousin Anthony, nice kid. Sonny, they killed Sonny. You know, it was sad. You know?
Any arrests made out of this?
Yeah. Well, they got Vinny and Damien coming out of the restaurant. They grabbed them right there. The father got away. He was the main shooter. He got away. But the next day when he went to court, or the day after, they grabbed him in court. And they arrested him.
Was this the reason you wanted to leave that area? You wanted to leave the Patriarchas and you wanted to go to Philly? Or
No.
Let me ask you this also, a companion question. After your father and your brother get killed, did you ever consider right then and there, I want to get the hell out of this life?
No.
Yeah.
No, I just regrouped. I went and got whatever my father had on the street, and I added to my crew, and that was it.
So how did you wind up? Oh, I tell you what, Johnny, why don't we go to a commercial?
Oh, yeah, we need some money, so don't go nowhere. So, and remember, everybody who's listening at home, we know where you live. Don't go anywhere. Find you.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Today's show is being sponsored by Corleone Fine Italian Food Products. This sponsor really means a lot to me. Corleone Fine Italian has taken the heart and soul of the Godfather films and created a line of food products that include pasta sauce, balsamic vinegar from Modena, Italy, Genco extra virgin olive oil from Sicily. They created delicious pasta sauces, marinade, tomato basil, arrabbiato, and my favorite, Clemenza's meat sauce. You will be amazed. You will think your grandmother made the sauce herself. CorleoneFineItalian.com. That's CorleoneFineItalian.com. All right, we're back with Bobby telling us a fantastic story.
So, Bobby, how did you wind up moving from the Patriarca family to Philly?
So what happened, like I told Gianni earlier, Angelo Amelio and Giggsy set up a meeting. Giggsy went to talk to Pete, because now I want to go to New York and be a capo in that one of those families. So we wanted to go to the Gambinos. But Pete Gotti said, at the time he was the boss.
Because John was
away. He was the acting boss. Yeah. And he said he couldn't do that because there was already a family up there, which I understood. But one of my guys, Frank Rossi, did time with Ralph Natali. And Ralph wanted us to go down there. He wanted to take me to meet Ralph. I went down to meet Ralph at Cherry Hill at the pub. We had a conversation, started going back and forth. I met Joey, I met George, I met all the guys, you know, going back and forth. And they ended up proposing me in the family. They called Boston. They knew what I was doing, who I was, how deep, you know, I was into this. Listen, if I got made or not, I was still a boss up here. There was no doubt about that. I had the strongest crew. I was making the money. Yeah, you know it's all about the money, Gianni.
So You went straight to Philly as a capo.
Well, I was proposed. No, they let me go, well, like 6 months before they actually made me a capo.
Okay.
Johnny will tell you just can't jump into things.
No.
Even 6 months.
They want to prove yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You
Yeah,
you
but
just don't jump in. So they went through the regular routine with me. But once I became a capo, they come up to Boston and we made my guys up here. Made 7 guys up here.
How did you get along with Skinny Joey Molino? The reason I'm asking is I had some interaction with him through an individual that I wrote a book about 7 years ago. And Joey's living in Miami now, Florida, South Florida. At least he was at the time I was writing the book. And he struck me as a very laid back guy.
He is.
Yeah.
He's that guy you want to go drink with. He's a guy you want to hang around with. He's just down to earth. He doesn't try to be, Don Corleone. He's not a bullshitter. He's just a nice kid. No, seriously. He's a good guy, Joey. I really liked him. That's why we all hit it off good together when we met.
Yeah. Looking at him, first of all, he looks very young. He's a little guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he just doesn't seem like, after all the trouble that went on in Philly with Scarfo, all the killings, and Angelo Bruno getting whacked in such a spectacular manner, he comes along. He just didn't fit the mold. And I was thinking at the time, I just gotten out of the NYPD, this guy's going to have a hard time controlling these maniacs. But that didn't seem to be the case.
No, he had the respect. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Joey had the respect. You got to remember, his father at one time was the underboss for Nicky.
Yeah.
Scarfo. I mean, the family was well known down there in South Philly. And, Joey had a crew. They all grew up together, went to school together, these guys.
Yep.
They're still out there. They're all really tight-knit kids. And when you got something like that behind you, that's like having real blood behind you.
Yeah, it's the old school.
Yeah, and that's how these guys are down there. They were young guys, but I'll tell you, they had old school beliefs.
So, what were you doing for Philly that you weren't doing in Boston, in Rhode Island, rather?
Well, I had on to do a Rhode Island, obviously. So now I'm up in Boston.
Yeah,
I did something that never happened before. I brought another family into a big city. No one ever really done that before. Don't get me wrong. If the Genovese wanted to go somewhere or whatever territories they wanted to do, they would set that up. They send a cop or maybe some guys down there. Johnny will tell you that. But I actually went in and took over that part of the city with a different crew. If Raymond Petriaco was alive, he would have skinned me alive. But all those guys were gone, and all my old friends were gone. So to me, that didn't matter anymore.
So you had some interaction with Whitey Bulger, Flemmy, all these guys, right?
A little with Stevie. I never met Whitey. Didn't care for him from the stories I heard. You got to remember, he wasn't Italian, so he really had no say in that thing. By the time I came up in the 90s, he was just in South Boston. He had a little crew.
There was no rumor that he was an informant for the FBI for 30 years?
I heard that when I was a kid. They didn't trust him.
And
I heard that when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. But then I heard half these guys were calling him up to get information.
What do you attribute his longevity to? Let's put it that way.
Yeah, being an FBI informant.
Yeah, geez. His handler with the FBI, John Connolly, went to prison for 10 years he tipped them off about his indictment, but they had Connolly good. He did his 10 years to the day. When he got out, they turned him around and marched him right back into prison. I think he did another 10 years for something.
Well, I heard he got out on a medical now. That's what I was told.
Oh, they let him go on a
yeah, I really don't follow it too much anymore, to be honest with you, with them. Because I got no use for those people over there. You know what I'm saying?
Bulger corrupted, I think, the whole field office of the Boston FBI.
Oh, he did. But that guy looked up to him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
He was around Whitey. And, sometimes they want to be half a gangsters, these guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're cops. Right, Gianni? Am I right or wrong?
Oh, yeah. They love the lifestyle. They were traded in a minute.
Yeah. That's what happened with that. But what I did is I went in the North End, set my crew up in there after my father got killed, and I was running everything I could. There were still patriarchas out there. A few, they were doing their business. I was doing business with some patriarchas, but I definitely had the strongest crew up there. There's no doubt about that.
Were
I
you
had
still
Irish guys. I had a lot of good people with me.
doing drugs in Philly?
Well, that drug and Philly thing started later.
Okay.
You know, that Ron Previty, that the one that ratted on me. He ratted on me, Joey, Ralphie.
Get to that.
When I first sat with Joey, we were going to have no business being done in between the states. I'm going to run Boston and do it my way. He's obviously the boss anyway. He's going to run Philly. There was supposed to be no gambling across the board, nothing. Then all of a sudden, you know, from lack of money or whatever, they want me to set up Ronnie with this drug business. And that's how we ended up getting indicted.
How?
Well, Ronnie was with the FBI. Before that, the state police too.
Okay, so this is Ronnie's an informant.
Ronnie's an informant.
Okay, who does
I'm
he
really
bring?
surprised they bring that Joey brought him back in. You know, Stanford made him. He was in Stanford's crew. Joey should have just let him sit out there. But they took him back in, him and Ralphie. I don't know why. I would have never did that myself.
Well,
He was an informant.
you were suspicious of him to begin with.
I didn't like it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I knew there was something wrong with this guy. I abused him a few times. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, Gianni, but I did. I just didn't like him, you know?
So
It's a good way to find them out.
Yeah.
he winds up bringing in an undercover FBI agent.
I'm sitting in an office in Boston with an undercover FBI agent, videotaping me, everything, audio. Yeah.
They had you good.
Oh, they had me good, yeah.
How many buys?
Hmm?
How many
It was
buys?
only, what did they get? They only got 3 or 4 kilos. I don't remember. I think it was 2 or 3. And then they came and got us.
Then
See
they
what
need
happened?
one.
No, what happened, Gianni? They wanted to close the investigation in Philadelphia. So I was the side thing. They had to come and take me too. So they made a few deals, made sure they got me for like 12 years, whatever, just to get me off the street. And then they arrested Joey, my guys, and Joey and his guys. And I think they were down the shore. Joey was down the shore. They picked 11 of us up that day between Boston and Philly. All because of this money.
So how much time?
I was facing 10 to 12.
And
We were
did you
trying
want?
to get to 10. We were trying to get to 10. I had no problem with it, you know.
Yeah.
What were your charges?
Well, possession. How did they say it?
Possession with intent?
And
What is it, Pat?
Possession with intent?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it was.
So
I guess those still not sometimes. I can't remember these things.
so you wind up doing how much time?
I ended up doing 13 years, 9 months.
Okay, now go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Please.
No,
go on.
I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you what happened. So an ex-prosecutor, AUSA in the Boston office, retires and goes to my lawyer's office, Marty Boudreau. And I'll say this, I won't get him in trouble. He passed away. Marty comes down with John, my lawyer at the time. He says, Bobby, you're not going to get out. What do you mean I'm not going to get out? I'm facing 10 to 12. He said, listen, your friend's ratted on you. You're getting re-indicted on murder, superseded indictment. He said they couldn't do it this time because this indictment involved Joey. He said the next grand jury that sits, you're going to be re-indicted on the murder charges.
What
Were they
happened?
trying to flip you at that time, do you think?
No, Marty wasn't. Marty was just telling me what was happening.
Wow.
And he
Okay,
said,
so what happened to the murder charge?
well, I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
So now they want, he told me, why don't you go and talk to them? So I'm not talking to them. I'm over here in Boston. I built a big crew, this family. I'm not a rat, you know. But my stomach's turning now because I know who's coming. I think I know who's coming up against me. Gavish. And I was in myself for 2 weeks, my stomach turning. And then I called, they said, all right, I'll go talk to them. I went and talked to them. We discussed about 6, 7 bodies, some other things. But when it came down to doing something, I couldn't do it. I started fighting with them. So I got my plea back and I went to trial. I went to trial. I lost. I got 20 years because they could only take me to trial on the underlying indictment, which was the cocaine.
Right.
They couldn't get me with the murders because I got profit on them in immunity. But they were trying to get me on the murders. They couldn't. The judge told them no. And so I went back. I lost, won an appeal, went back again, second trial, and I lost again. But the guidelines changed. I think it was 2006 or 7, and they had to drop 4 points off. So it dropped it down to 15.8, and I ended up doing 13.9.
Okay, now this whole story is captivating and interesting as hell.
Mm-hmm.
But you had, for lack of a better term, an epiphany prior to you going to prison. Now, we don't want to get too much into it because that's the most interesting part of the book, and you don't want to give it away. But tell us basically what happened.
Well, I'll tell you about that night. About 1980, my mother became a born-again Christian, charismatic movement. My mother had a big apartment, and she used to have 20, 30 people in there. They had a pastor inside my mother's house, and they were putting a church together. My mother puts the church together. My ex-wife, she's down there. She starts praying in tongues and all that, taking the kids and everything. And me, I'm on the street, you know. So it was March of 98. I'll never forget this. And I went home, and I seen something. It stood with me for about 8 hours. I had to call the church to come and get rid of it. And they did. And that night, 15 months before I got arrested, I accepted Christ in my life.
Because of that incident?
Because, oh yeah, well, you know what happens? I saw the truth. I seen there was a devil. And I asked them, I said, is Jesus coming? He told me no. But I knew enough in my heart I was going to my mother's Bible studies earlier when I was in my 20s. I knew enough. I couldn't fight this thing off. I had to call them to do it, but I knew enough what was going on, and I knew I didn't want to be with Satan. And I told them, I don't want to be with you. I want to be with Jesus.
How were you raised as a boy, though?
We're Catholic. We were all Catholic.
So you went to Catholic school, and
we did communion, confirmation, did the whole thing.
Okay.
You know,
church every Sunday.
My mother would send us. If we went, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I take the money from the box and go buy candy.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Our parents sent my sister and I to church, and we just never made it.
Yeah,
we come
me
back.
And Maria, my sister. Yeah, we take the money and buy candy with it. When I got a little old, I started buying cigarettes. You know, but that's what we did.
So, but you know, it's a shame that experience came a little bit too late. So you're away for 12 years and something months. You come out. What happened then?
When I got out, I didn't help the government. And what happened, there was a cold murder that they came and talked to me about. I really don't want to talk to them about it. But a guy with me, Bobby Luisi, they believe the biggest art heist in the world happened in Boston.
I remember, yeah.
At the Gotti Museum.
The museum, yeah.
That Bobby, the guy that was with me, was one of the guys that robbed the place.
Okay, can I stop you there for a second? Because I did a lot of research on this. I was going to do a book about it. It was the biggest art heist in history.
Yeah.
Unsolved.
To this
day. But you get so many theories about it. I mean, these were pictures worth in the hundreds of millions of dollars. To get rid of them, they had to be pre-sold, to collect it, whatever. They never really, they named suspects, but they didn't have enough evidence to bring anybody to trial. They never recovered the artwork.
No.
What do you know about that?
Well, what happened, I'm in one of my safe houses up in Waltham. We had a beautiful place. I used to have 2 or 3 safe houses, to move around, do whatever I had to do, especially during the war. So I'm sitting up there with Bobby Luisi. We called him Monk. That was his nickname. And Miles Corner comes on the TV. Everybody knows him up here, big art thief. And he looked at me, and they were talking about the gardener. And he says, I know what the paintings are. I said, well, he said, yeah, I know what the paintings are. He said, they're under a concrete slab in a house in Florida. He said, can you move them? I says, who am I going to move this?
How do you move
I
something
know
like
nothing about this.
Well, not even if you did, how do you move something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I pay no attention to it. I let it go. Believe me, I don't care where it was buried. I had enough money in the room. I could have went and bought the house. If I knew the value of what was going to happen here, I would have went and dug them up myself. Excuse me.
Mm.
But it's the allergies are killing me.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
The museum.
I don't, Gianni will tell you, if I send a guy to go do something, Pat, I don't ask him everything he did, who you took, what happened. Did you get that done? Yeah. So when these guys come to me with things, I never questioned them. I never got too far into it. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The less I know, the better. Who cares? So I never pursued it. I never did.
The Garden Museum is still an open investigation.
It's still open.
What do you think happened to those pictures?
Here's what I think happened. I think a certain guy maybe wanted 1 or 2 pictures in there.
Yeah.
And maybe Bobby went in with another guy and got what the guy wanted, and then they helped themselves to whatever they wanted.
Yeah, while they were there, what the hell, right?
Yeah, while they were there. I think that's what they did. I know before that, someone in that other crew, there was a art heist in there before. That wasn't the first one, but this one was a major one for all the art that they took. So now the FBI comes to me. Bobby's dead now. Bobby Garenti's dead. I'm not ran on him, but I told them what Bobby said. So they said to me, if you want, we could help you when you get out. Now, you got to remember, I'm broke. I got no money. I'm in 14 years. So I says, yeah, but all I could do was give information, not testify on it. You couldn't do nothing like that. I just gave information. And then there was a murder. There was another guy up in Boston, Rico Ponzo. And he took off like around the time Whitey did, or a little after that. And he was gone for 13 years, this kid. They found him in Ohio on a farm. He bought a farm down there, this kid.
Yeah.
So they grabbed him. Now, because I talked to them about the artwork, this was the Connecticut FBI. Now the Boston guys come in. And they said to me, we want, because I was ready to leave. I was in Allenwood, Pennsylvania. I'm getting out in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They said, we're going to live because we're going to subpoena you to this trial. They didn't know if I was going with the marshals. They didn't know what I was doing. I said, I'm not even sure where I'm going yet. They says, well, if you just help us with this Ponzo, we'll put you in the program. I said, I never committed a crime with Ponzo. Ponzo was my enemy. There's not one crime that I know that I could say that I did with this kid. I did nothing with this kid.
Well, not only that, but you're getting out anyway.
I'm getting out anyway. Right.
Yeah.
But now the offer to go into the program, I thought was good because I was already divorced from my wife. I thought it was a good move. I'm a Christian now. I got a degree in theology while I'm in prison. I wrote a book in prison. It's up on Amazon now. Actually, the both books are up on Amazon. And I wanted to, be a pastor. That's what I wanted to do.
So what did you do when you got out? You divorced yourself from these people, this lifestyle, everything?
The whole thing. I want nothing to do with anybody.
Nobody.
No, remember, 3 of my cousins are made guys.
Yeah.
They do their thing. I just don't bother with anybody. They don't bother with me. We all live in.
They kept you in a family. I mean, people still talk to you and your family. These guys that are still in the life.
No, not really. No.
Okay, that's what I figured. But,
yeah,
and
it doesn't matter your blood or not. In that life, this is how they feel.
Yeah, there was no repercussions. You just walked away with no problem.
What are they gonna do?
Well,
where I live, they know where I am.
No, but I'll tell you, to answer that question,
not them.
To answer that question now, there's nobody wants to do anything anyway.
No,
not anymore.
That's what we're talking about, Sammy. All these guys are living, walking around the streets. They don't care no more. They ain't sending nobody. Who's going to go?
You and I know that, but we're trying to educate our listeners because, you get from the, TVs and the movies, blood in, blood out. You can't leave the mob. If you even try that, they're going to find you in the trunk of a Cadillac. So Bobby's just setting them straight. We're helping them do it.
No, but some of these guys have podcasts. They're on radio every day. What are you talking about? This is
Sammy,
modern generation. It's craziness.
Now you think about this, Pat. You're in law enforcement, right?
Yeah.
We're talking murder, or we're talking maybe a loan shot bit. Look at the difference in between.
Yeah.
They're trying not to hurt people. They're trying not to kill people anymore.
You know, if somebody would have probably said to Sammy the Bull 10 years ago that one day he's going to be a superstar podcaster, he would have told me he was absolutely crazy. This guy is doing well podcasting. He's making a ton of money. Nobody's saying spit. I mean, he's doing his own thing. And
Yeah,
he probably go ahead.
him also, Mike Francis.
Oh, yeah, Michael's doing well.
Very well. Mike's a great guy. I did a show with him, Comedy Central in 2017. We did a skit on there. It's
Comedy
on my channel on the Bobby Luisi show. Yeah, there was me, Mike, Frank, the fake Donald Trump. They want the real wise guys to sit with him.
Do you still have that?
You got to go up on my channel, the Bobby Luisi show. You got to watch the skit.
Oh, it's the video's still on there.
Oh yeah, I got it up there.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes. It was on Comedy Central. You know?
If we decide to do it, do we have your permission to play it on our podcast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Okay, anyway, you're out. What's the first thing you did?
Yeah.
What is the first thing you did when you got out of prison? How did you make the transition?
All right, I got out of prison. I was in a hotel room. I did a 40-day fast, a lot of prayers, you know. Right after the fast, I got an apartment right away, got a vehicle, all that. The first job interview I went on, I got the job. Construction company as a supervisor manager. You know, when I walked in, the guy knew, you know, I knew what I was talking about. He hired me right away.
Yeah.
I was doing that for a little while. Then Sandusky Cabinets out of Ohio had a plant in Tennessee. They hired me. I guess a few people knew who I were, you know, about my past and who I wasn't, you know, in Boston. And they hired me to help straighten the place out a little, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, we figured it out.
Yeah. So when
I don't know, Jeannie, Jeannie, you have any questions? You're not asking any questions at all.
It's a fascinating story. The one thing I did have a question was how were you received when you returned? And you said there's no animosity. You're not really friendly with the family or not having Sunday dinners, but that, you know, you're getting along. And I'm listening to you talk about it, and it's kind of reminding me of like people sitting around and talking about the good old days back when they played football in high school and they did this type of life, and everybody's kind of calmed down now and not at each other's throats. You respect the past and move forward. So,
well, you know, I look at it this way, and like Gianni was saying earlier, the mob really doesn't want to kill anymore. Why would they even come after me and start that problem? You know,
there's no reward. It's nothing.
And what if they didn't get me, Gianni? What's going to happen?
Hello.
You know, so I mean,
exactly. What's the point?
Better off. We just leave things alone.
Yeah.
On my podcast, it's funny because I do a Christian show every Sunday. I do a teaching. And then the other 200 shows up there are all gangster interviews. Yeah.
Okay, so
what's the name of your shows and your podcast so we can let everybody know? Because I searched and I was having a hard time. I was finding a lot of probably the gangster interviews, but I was having a hard time finding what your stuff.
Yeah, well, that you got to go. It's just the Bobby Luisi show. I just put Bobby Luisi.
And that's a podcast or that's YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Just on YouTube. It comes right up. And so now I do that on the Sunday. I started a job in September and I haven't been doing my regular show. But I'm going to start doing that soon.
And the titles of your books?
From Capo to Christian, this one here that you read.
Yeah.
I got another book, God's Plan Revealed. That's a Christian book. I break down the Bible from Genesis to Revelations because I was a teacher and I'm still teaching. The book that's coming out right now, Emily Sweeney is a top reporter for the Boston Globe. And she's writing my life story right now.
Well,
when will that be out?
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's Four to the Floor, the Bobby Luisi story. It's up right now on Amazon for pre-sale. Hopefully everything will be done in a few months and, you know, the book will be out.
Who's the publisher?
He was a Boston publisher. He's a small guy. I
Okay.
even forget the name.
And tell us the title of the book again.
Four to the Floor, the Bobby Luisi story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bobby, you said you were married and you had children. How did your kids and family do once you returned? Were your children older, or how did that work out?
Yeah, they were older. At first, they were a little nervous. You know, they didn't know what was going to happen. I told them, don't worry about it. You know, and I'm with my kids all the time. Praise God, my mother, my father, my stepfather, everybody. So I'm with all my family. Wherever I go, there's open arms. Believe me.
That's great.
Well, I tell you, man.
Wherever I go, I got a lot of friends here.
You seem very.
I get home, Gianni. They come up to me, Bobby, where were you? With me. Were you coming to the church? With me, And it's nice, though. You come home, everybody respects you. Things are good.
I tell you,
Stay away from the wise guys. Huh?
You seem very happy and relaxed.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Bobby? How old are you?
62.
Oh, you're a young guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Bob,
that's what I told him when I asked him the last. He's just a kid.
Yeah.
Bobby, were your children ever involved in any of the business when you were? I don't know how old your kids were when you were.
No, they were young. No,
And stayed clear of this.
very clear. I believe like the old timers. You don't take your kids into these things. My son was young anyway when I went away. He was a teenager, but I would have never took my son in.
Smart move. There are people who do take their sons in, as you know.
Yeah. We know.
Listen, all
we
the
know
guys that
who
was
they
the
are.
Bonanos, all these guys, they're all making their kids.
I know, crazy.
Insane.
Years ago, you had to earn this to get these stripes.
Oh, hello.
You're just taking them in.
Nuts.
Well, they're taking them in. Well, Michael got taken in because he made a lot of money. Franchising. He was, But anyway, that's a great story, and thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I can't wait to read your books.
Oh, that'll be great. I can't wait.
Come to the show. Let me know. You want to come to the show at the Regency. It's July 20th.
July 20th, the Regency in Arlington.
Arlington, Mass, right there where you are.
You got that? Huh? Yeah. We're going to come. We'll
All right,
come and
please.
see you.
Yeah, please.
Definitely. All right.
All right.
All right, Bobby, once again, thank you very much for being on the show. And when you get the book that I sent you, let me know.
All right, I will. Listen,
All right.
God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back with Jeannie and Pat.
Yeah.
Don't go nowhere.
We are pleased to announce the publication of a new book series from Gianni Russo and Patrick Piccarelli entitled The Sixth Family. When the alleged daughter of Marilyn Monroe asks for help, Gianni Russo becomes entangled in a web of lies and violence in the search for the late actress's diary. Soon, he is enmeshed in a mystery that involves a presidential candidate, a disgruntled Mafia capo, a retired NYPD detective, and the past of Mafia boss Frank Costello. Russo must race against the clock to stop a hostile reorganization of the American Mafia, while trying to stay one step ahead of a faceless killer. While listening to this book, skillfully read by Gianni himself, the listener will have to determine what is true and what is fiction. Or as Gianni says before this epic story begins, this book is a work of fiction, except for the parts that are true. Look out for the second installment of this exciting new series coming in 2023, The Sixth Family. Book 1 is available now on Amazon.com.
All right, we're back from the break, and Jeannie has some mailbags for us.
All right. First, we have Scott. He says, I'm a big fan. Do you have a mailing address where I may send a few photos for you to sign? Thank you and best regards.
Yes, we do. It's P.O. Box 443 Monessen, Monessen, in the great state of Pennsylvania, 15062. I will get the pictures to Gianni, and he will send you the autographed pictures, whatever you send to us, books, pictures, whatever you want.
You'll sign and return. We need a return envelope in there, though.
Yeah, we need a return envelope. Also, that is addressed in my name. Okay.
All righty. The next one is Will. He said, hey, I've reached out before from Cleveland and grew up outside Youngstown. Should have Jimmy Molidor.
I know
Spell
Jimmy Molidor well. Are you kidding? Jimmy's a good friend of mine. Jimmy was my musical conductor for years. Traveled.
Oh, really?
Oh, no. I talk to him all the time. Great guy. Great guy.
He says, no, he has connections with Gianni from Vegas and recently came out with a book. Should be plenty of material from Will.
No, we will consider it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, though.
Next.
Next is from Tracy. It says, hi, Gianni. Wondering if you ever met Donnie Brasco.
Nope.
Well, I did. I worked with him. Donnie Brasco's real name is Joe Pistone. He was an FBI agent that went undercover. He was undercover.
What year was that? I just want to know for a reason.
Late 70s to mid 80s.
Yeah, I'll see. I was an actor by then.
The movie, there was a movie made, obviously, Donnie Brasco starring Johnny Depp and Al Pacino.
Great movie.
I met Joe Pistone when my agent called me and asked me to work with him on a book. We were going to start a Donnie Brasco fiction series, because this is where I got the idea for a Gianni Russo fiction series. Something like this isn't done very often, if at all. There's only one other real person who turned his memoir into a fiction series. He was in the SEALs, and he wrote 6 fiction books about his life.
Yeah. Famous guy, actually.
Yeah.
He's dead now.
Joe
Didn't he die?
He died about a year ago. Well,
Yeah.
he also had a little problem. He had to stop writing, something to do with prison time, but we'll go into that some other time. But Joe Pistone and we outlined the book. Everything was ready to go. Our agent, Frank Wyman, liked it. And Joe had some family member with a health issue. I won't go into it any more than that. And he decided that he had to devote some time to his family. And then, there was a lengthy illness. Years passed, and then he wound up doing something else. Joe is in a couple of businesses now. He's doing quite well. He's not, contrary to what you may read in the media, that he's been hiding for the last 30 years. He's out in plain sight. As we said during the show, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. How old is Joe Pistone now?
But he's older than I am, and not too many people can say that. I would say he's...
I can.
Yeah, I can say he's early 80s, great shape.
Good.
Go ahead.
No.
That was interesting to hear, and I'm glad you brought it up, Gianni and you and Bobby, that, it's kind of like bygones are bygones and everybody just kind of leaves everybody alone. Because, you wonder, you see the movies and things like that, where if you ever cross somebody, the mob will always find you. And
see what it is now. It's not even that. The mob is so fragmented. Mm-hmm. And in the life we live today, everybody has cameras, everybody has recorders. So he's going to get revenge, and the last days of his life he's going to go to jail. For what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Plus, the last thing, when it comes to Joe Pistone, the last thing organized crime needs is a dead FBI agent. I mean, it's ridiculous. And as far as anybody else, I mean, well, look at Sammy the Bull. He turned in John Gotti, the head of his family. There was a hit team that was sent to take him out when he was relocated to Arizona. He opened up a very popular restaurant. He didn't go under a different name, and he invited people to come down and try and take him out. Wow. And this hit team, which consisted of 2 wise guys and a lieutenant from the Newark Police Department, believe it or not, went down there armed to the teeth. They got as far as Kansas, ran a red light, and got pulled over. And they're all doing 20, 30 years, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But that's why, it's funny that you should say that. I mean, I never even said this to you, Pat. I've gotten so many calls of threats. I said, come meet me.
Yeah.
Now what? What are you going to do? You think I'm afraid of you? The way I lived my life, I'm afraid of somebody. I don't fear anything. Come here. Walk into my house. You're dead. Hello.
Well, you had you and I, without mentioning any names, you had a recent visit from an old associate who got out of prison after 20-something years recently.
Oh, yeah, no. I told him, I said, listen, you want money? I'll lend you money. That's all. As for an old time's sake. But don't think I'm afraid of you. I'll kill you right now and I'll call a cop. I'm legitimate. You're not. What are you doing in my apartment?
You have to call some bluffs. Basically what it was a shakedown.
No,
but,
that's all. If I want to shoot somebody in my apartment, I shoot him. I go outside, close the door, and I kick the door, and then there you go. You break an entry. See you later.
Okay, so that's how it's going to work. we're on video here.
Tell us all your secrets, Gianni. Then they'll know that's premeditated.
You also look at Henry Hill.
Hello.
I mean, if who has not seen Goodfellas? Henry Hill decimated a mob family. He was in a witness protection program for like an hour and a half. Couldn't handle it. He wanted to do his drinking. He wanted to do his drugs. His wife divorced him, and he came right back to New York. Winds up on a Howard Stern show. He's out in plain view. Nothing ever happened to the guy. Because once again, what's the point?
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to go do it, and what's their reward?
Yeah.
Right. Proof that things have just changed, and it was, back in the day, is here you two sit, the best of friends, like brothers now, a cop and
a robber.
Yeah.
A cop. Well, we could like to call it a cop and a businessman.
And a business. Johnny, I listen to your stories and I think your mind goes a million miles an hour. And I'm like, this guy, everything you touch turns to gold. And I love listening to you. I love that your story is so inspiring to people who have struggled, and like Pat mentioned on, I don't know which podcast it was, but it was recently that, you always have such a good attitude and you're grateful every day. And it's inspiring to me.
It's funny you should say this. Yesterday, I did a 3-mile walk, and I see 3 young black men on a corner. You would think the Messiah came, and I'm turning around. I'm saying, "Who are you talking to?" It's you. I turned these kids' lives around. They were raising money for autistic children.
Yeah.
These were gangbangers. I couldn't believe it. On Park Avenue and 17th Street yesterday. We took pictures. They said, we listened to you. And I'm glad I'm an inspiration to people. But I hear it a lot. And I probably my greatest compliment I can get is that I help people. But people help me all my life. That's why I have my attitude.
Give it back.
That's it, man. And I've been lucky. I mean, wait, Gino, when you hear in the next 6 months what we're doing is insane.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons Pat and I now are really expanding to our international and national level, because we could reach more people, because we get tremendous letters like this and the conversation we're having now. So, and it's not even the money, because we do give back, but why not hit a bigger audience and get more positive word out?
Yeah.
By the way, Jeannie, I see you got my flowers.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, you're
well,
quite
I thought I better post something over here because I'm like, I look like I'm in a mugshot.
Yeah.
That white wall, but
there you go. Well, perfect.
You're a star.
Well, thank you for being on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you both. I enjoyed
it.
In
touch. No, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to say goodnight to Jeannie, our audience, Pat.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
That's a wrap, folks.
Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hollywood Godfather podcast. You can contact Gianni Russo or Patrick Picciarelli with your questions and comments through the contact section of our website, HollywoodGodfatherPodcast.com. which is where you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter. You can also call and leave us a message at 646-776-3038. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Hollywood Godfather and on Facebook, as well as leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd like to know what you'd like about what we're doing, what you'd like to hear in the future, and anything else you might suggest to improve our podcast. Most importantly, hit the subscribe button. We'll be back next week with stories of the mob in Hollywood, as well as answers to your messages. Good night.
My kids still can't believe I sat with a saint. My life's like scenes out of a movie. I'm the Hollywood Godfather, truly. I got stories with them all. You know, celebrities, world leaders, icons. Who knows what's next for me? I'll never get too old to have a little fun. Come on, I'm Gianni Russo, a genuine one of a kind. What a ride it's been, this life of mine. And I ain't done yet. I'll be back. Until next time.
And that was that.
When I was 17, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for small town girls and soft summer nights. We'd hide from the lights on the village green when I was 17. I did it my